With news today that the federal government and Alberta seem to be moving closer to a deal that could include the possibility of a BC oil pipeline.
Something the Alberta Premier has long called for. Now a deal between the federal Liberal government and the province on energy looks to be nearing completion. And it's likely to include details on a proposed oil pipeline stretching to the BC coast.
There's only one person who will decide if this pipeline gets built, and it's Mark Carney. So I would encourage you all to ignore provincial politicians who have no authority in this matter.
You won't believe what just happened in Canada. Alberta, one of the provinces that powers the country, just signed a huge new pipeline deal with the United States. And they did it without asking Ottawa for permission.
I could just go down to the United States and start working with American counterparts to see if we can build more pipelines. They've expressed an interest.
While the federal government was busy holding climate meetings and talking about sustainability goals.
$50 billion dollars worth of oil and gas exports that go back and forth across to the United States. They made new pipelines virtually impossible to build through the passage of the unconstitutional C-69, we call it the No New Pipelines Bill. It had so much confusion and uncertainty and red tape that Canada earned a reputation as one of the very worst places to invest.
Alberta quietly made a move that shocked everyone. Why is Alberta breaking all the rules and going straight to the US? And what does this mean for Ottawa? Could this pipeline deal finally put jobs and money back into Alberta and change Canada's energy game forever? Is this bold move a smart strategy or a risk that could shake the country to its core? For years, Alberta has been trying to get its energy products to market, but Ottawa kept putting up roadblocks, endless reviews, new environmental rules, and bureaucratic delays.
We need to act as a catalyst in order to create new jobs, new opportunity, new revenue streams in Port-au-Prince, Rupert. Then we want to be that catalyst. There's nothing about ramming anything. The reason why we made calls to every nation leadership on Monday before Truth and Reconciliation Day is to show respect, is to show that we want to start on the right foot.
Every time Alberta tried to expand exports, it felt like someone was always in the way. And all the while, the US, Canada's biggest trading partner, kept moving full speed ahead. So, Alberta decided. Premier Danielle Smith made the announcement calmly, but the implications were huge. This wasn't just a pipeline, it was a statement. Alberta was reclaiming its power. By dealing directly with US partners, the province created a new route for heavy crude natural gas and even petrochemical products without Ottawa slowing them down. It was smart, fast, and bold. People across Canada were shocked. Federal ministers scrambled, trying to figure out what to do. Other provinces started quietly asking, could we do something like this too? Alberta wasn't just building infrastructure, it was showing that a province could act independently, make real progress, and create jobs. And the benefits were immediate. Local communities started buzzing again, contractors got busy, small towns saw new visitors, and workers finally got steady jobs. Investors who had once looked elsewhere were suddenly paying attention. Alberta's move was practical, smart, and full of confidence. This pipeline deal wasn't just about oil or money. It was about showing the rest of Canada and the world that Alberta could lead, not follow. For a province often sidelined, this was a moment of pride, strategy, and quiet rebellion. Alberta proved that sometimes you don't need permission to do something incredible. You just need courage, vision, and action. Canada just witnessed a bold power play, and it came straight from Alberta. For decades, the federal government in Ottawa has controlled the energy scene, deciding which projects get approved, which don't, and piling on rules that slow everything down. Alberta, the province that produces much of Canada's oil and gas, has been frustrated, waiting for approvals that seem never to come. Then, Alberta made a move that shook the country. They signed a major pipeline deal directly with the United States, completely bypassing Ottawa. Permission asked, no federal red tape, no endless consultations, just action. It was like watching David finally stand up to Goliath. This wasn't just about economics, it was about power. For years, Ottawa controlled the narrative. If you wanted to build a pipeline, you had to wait for the federal green light. But Alberta said, we're done waiting. By negotiating straight with US partners, the province didn't just secure a pipeline, it shifted the balance of authority. Suddenly, a province was making major decisions on its own. The reaction in Ottawa was immediate panic. Federal ministers scrambled to assess the deal, but there was little they could do. Other provinces, like Saskatchewan and Manitoba, started quietly wondering if they could follow Alberta's lead. Alberta's action sent a clear message. If one province can bypass the bureaucracy, others might do it too, and Ottawa can't stop it. Meanwhile, the economic impact was real. Jobs were returning, investors were taking notice, and local communities were buzzing with new energy. People realized that Alberta wasn't reckless. It was strategic, competent, and forward-thinking. At its core, this story isn't just about oil. It's about a province standing up, reclaiming its power, and showing that bold action can work where politics fails. Alberta reminded everyone that authority isn't only about rules, it's about courage and initiative. And for Canadians watching, it's impossible not to feel a mix of surprise, pride, and curiosity, because this move could change the future of how Canada's provinces interact with Ottawa forever. For years, Alberta's energy projects have been stuck in a loop of delays, reviews, and endless federal rules. Every time the province tried to expand pipelines or export oil, Ottawa seemed to find another reason to slow things down. The frustration was real. Communities waited, workers waited, and opportunities slipped away. Alberta's economy, which relies heavily on energy, was feeling the pinch. Then, Alberta decided to take matters into its own hands. Premier Danielle Smith and her team quietly negotiated directly with U.S. energy partners, cutting through the federal gridlock. The result? A major pipeline deal that didn't need Ottawa's permission. By moving quickly and decisively, Alberta created a new path for oil, gas, and petrochemical exports. The effects were immediate. Federal ministers were caught off guard. Ottawa hadn't expected a province to act so boldly. Across Canada, other provinces started to take notice. Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and even Ontario began quietly exploring whether they could do the same. Alberta had shown that if a province acts first, the old rules don't always apply. Locally, the impact was electric. Workers returned to jobs that had been paused for months. Small towns near the oil fields saw new life. Hotels filled up, restaurants were busy, and contractors got back to work. Investors, who had once looked elsewhere, suddenly saw Alberta as a place where business actually gets done. But the ripple effects go beyond economics. Politically, Alberta sent a powerful message. Provinces don't have to wait for Ottawa to take action. By acting independently, Alberta challenged the old power dynamic and inspired other provinces to reconsider their options. This pipeline deal wasn't just a project, it was proof of cause and effect. Frustration and delay caused bold action. Bold action caused immediate economic, political, and social change. And that change may just reshape Canada's energy future. Alberta didn't wait to be saved. It created its own path forward, showing that courage, initiative, and smart strategy can change the game when the system seems stuck. Alberta, usually overshadowed by Ottawa, quietly makes a move that shocks all of Canada. While the federal government was holding its usual climate briefings and meetings, Alberta's energy teams were busy, negotiating directly with US partners to secure a major new pipeline deal. No red tape, no delays, no permission needed, just action. For decades, Alberta has been treated like the engine of the nation, producing oil, gas, and jobs, but never allowed to steer the wheel. Every time they tried, Ottawa slowed them down with reviews, environmental rules, and bureaucratic hurdles. The frustration was building, and people across the province were tired of waiting. Then came the bold move. Premier Danielle Smith announced the deal with calm confidence. But make no mistake, this was huge. Alberta wasn't just building a pipeline, it was reclaiming its power. By cutting a direct path to US ports, the province bypassed bypass federal chokeholds and open new opportunities for oil, gas, petrochemicals, and even hydrogen exports in the future. The reaction was immediate. Federal ministers scrambled, trying to figure out how to respond. Other provinces like Saskatchewan and Manitoba started quietly exploring whether they could do the same. And locally, life changed fast. Workers who had been waiting months returned to their jobs. Small towns saw renewed activity, and contractors were back in business. Investors who had once left Canada were now paying attention. But this story isn't just about economics. It's about power, courage, and vision. Alberta showed that a province doesn't need permission to lead, and that bold, smart action can reshape the rules of the game. For a region often sidelined, it was a moment of pride, strategy, and quiet rebellion. By the end of the day, Alberta wasn't asking to be heard anymore. It already was, and for the rest of Canada, it was impossible to ignore. A new chapter had begun, where initiative beats bureaucracy and action speaks louder than words. Alberta had transformed frustration into opportunity, showing that sometimes the boldest moves change everything. Rules, endless reviews, and delays that seemed to never end. People watched opportunities slip away while Ottawa held all the power. Then Alberta acted. Premier Danielle Smith and her team negotiated directly with U.S. partners, bypassing the bureaucracy and securing a major pipeline deal. It was smart, bold, and fast. By doing this, Alberta not only opened new export routes for oil, gas, and petrochemicals, but also sent a powerful message. A province doesn't need permission to lead. The effects were immediate. Workers returned to their jobs, small towns saw renewed activity, and investors began to take notice. Across Canada, other provinces quietly started asking, could we do the same? Alberta's move proved that when a province takes initiative, it can reshape the rules and inspire others to follow. But the bigger picture goes beyond economics. Alberta showed that real progress comes from action, not endless discussion. Environmental responsibility, economic growth, and innovation can happen together. The province demonstrated that courage, planning, and leadership can change a system that often feels stuck. This pipeline deal isn't just a project, it's a statement. Alberta transformed frustration into opportunity, showing that bold moves can lead to real results. For Canadians, it's a reminder that leadership isn't about waiting for permission or applause. It's about stepping forward, making tough decisions, and shaping the future. In the end, Alberta didn't just sign a deal, it proved that a province can be a leader, a pioneer, and a model for action. And in doing so, it reminded the rest of Canada that sometimes the most important power lies in taking the first step.